Hi friends, I know what you're thinking. This Little Gem Norway Spruce is going to look so cute tucked into this garden space. And you're right. Hi guys, I'm Patrick and welcome back to Plant Something Sunday, where this Sunday I'm working with this Little Gem Norway Spruce. So just a couple of quick things to know about it is it has a pretty diverse range where it can grow. It grows from zones 4 down to zone 11, I believe. So even it can handle heat very well. It can handle those extreme cold winters. As you can see, it is starting to take on a little bit of its winter dormant color right now, which is like this faded green, almost a yellow. And if you look really closely, it has its little cones are like this bluish purple color. It's very cute. And it doesn't take up a whole lot of space in the garden bed. It's one of those low liers where it's about 2 feet tall at maturity. So as you can see, it's about a foot now out of the growing container. If we're being a little generous, it's about a foot. And so roughly in this space, I would expect it to rise to be about here. And our little Hanaki cypress that we planted a couple weeks back is going to tower like a little column that sticks out. So this is going to do a good job at bringing some interest down away from the focal point and create a little bit more of a landscape structure here. It's going to take up enough space, about 4 feet. So I expect this to where it is, I expect it to blend into my evergreen shrubs back here just a little bit and to just sort of take up this space. It does have a mounding tendency to grow, so unless you are trimming it into a particular topiary for some reason, I've beginning to see a lot of people do that with some evergreens on Instagram, and I just find some of these are done very well for some plant varieties that I don't expect people to trim up into a topiary. But just left on its own, it grows in a very mound-like fashion with some upright structure. So it grow out like this, but then sort of flare up, flange. It's not a word. No, actually it is a word. It's not what I mean. So, yeah, and as you could tell, the leaves on a lot of the trees are down. It's November. We've had a couple of nights that are getting close to the freezing point. The ground is, it's crispy with the leaves on it, but it's still very workable. And I will sort of show you my process in planting this, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. So let's get to work. Okay, so I have my little helper today. All right, so I just want to talk a little bit planting. So a lot of things are already adapting to the temperature change, and they are slowing down or stopping altogether their growth efforts in their root system because they're reserving all of that energy and what nutrients that they have picked up, and they are working on just sort of bulking and storing them throughout the winter season. And, and with that being said, I think the thing that I most want to emphasize is, as a lot of gardeners know now, you don't mess around with the root membranes from the growing containers. And the only real exception is if they're so root bound that they're spiraling around and then growing inwards toward the center. There's no reason to really disturb the structure that it is right now. But at the end of the growing season, you want to be really mindful not to disturb that, because it's not preparing itself going into the winter. It's just going to have that less of a root system in place when it has those moments of reprieve in the temperatures that are warm enough that it can pick up a little bit of moisture and water throughout the winter season. So with that being said, as you can see, the soil is still very workable. I dug down a little further than usual, only because I wanted to really saturate beneath the level of where I'm planting at with water. And as you can see, I'm going to put a little video here. The root ball has plenty of moisture, and what I want to do and what works well for me is when you water sort of the bottom, it creates a pathway for the roots to know where to direct growth when it comes time for that. And then two, I did add my biotone, because even if the nutrients get spread out or diluted in this space, this whole space is designated for a growing zone. So this isn't going to wash meters down into the earth. I have some plants that are shallow root based and some that are deep root based. So even if that does not directly benefit this plant right now, or come spring, it can and will benefit the plants in the surrounding area. You know, there's this question of, well, will that be beneficial? And you never know. All kinds of things go right and wrong when you're gardening, and everything's a little bit of a learning curve. But for adding fertilizer when you're already digging beneath the root structure that you're putting in place has always worked out well for me. So unless something is going inherently wrong with that in the future, I don't plan on doing anything differently. Or if there's new information that is presented from researching it that directs me to change maybe my mind, I'll look at it that way then. But this is what I do, and what I personally notice as works well for me is, even in late winter, I still fertilize and I still water the base of the planting hole that I create. So the other thing that you've probably noticed is that this shape of the Norway spruce shrub is actually stretching out this way, and a lot of the sun and the southward facing light in the morning comes from this direction. So because I want to encourage it to grow into this space, I know that I wanted my a little bit mature grow area of the plant to, you know, go towards this direction, but also encourage a lot more of the new growth in the spring to go that way, to fill in this space. And that's just something I think, again, all gardeners are a little bit mindful of. Where is the south-facing light, and where do you want to encourage or fill in already established plants from a growing container? So unless you're seeding it yourself, a lot of these have, you know, structures from how the greenhouses that they've been in have allowed them to grow. And on some of those larger scales, not everything is going to come to you perfectly symmetrical, and everything's a unique growing species in general. So it's obviously not everything is going to be identical anyway. And then because I am looking at things in the weeks ahead about potential dips below, and in the coming weeks when we actually talk about the ground freezing, that's why I wanted to add my couple layers of cardboard, and this looks like a copious amount of mulch, and that's really just to buy myself a little time. Well, not buy myself time, it's to buy this Norway spruce a little bit of time to allow for more of an equilibrium and a transition to slowly transition, right? It's been in this growing container, it's been trapped in a greenhouse for, you know, sheltered conditions. So as things go up and down sort of, you know, violently in the weeks ahead as we transition, I want it to have just a little bit more insulation and protection as it settles into the dormancy that a lot of the surrounding plants have already had weeks to sort of transition themselves into. So I think that's it. If anybody has any questions, or if you have any tips on what grows well or how you plant things successfully in late autumn, let me know. I'm in a grow zone 5, so I'm always looking to see how I can extend my planting season. Remember to grow from where you are, and I'll share more with you soon. Tschüss.